Well, here we are, and it's Sunday, the 15th of November 2020 at 18:30 hours here in Dublin, Ireland. Now, we're looking again at what's happening in America. We're also looking at what's happening here in the Republic of Ireland. There's a number of interesting parallels taking place. One of the things that we're seeing, though, consistently is the extent to which the mainstream media has bet the farm on a particular result in the forthcoming US presidential election, whereas anybody who's actually watching the hard facts can see that it's still absolutely wide open and that there has been no progress towards any kind of definite result since the 4th of November. And here we are now, it's the 15th of November. So here we are now 11 days later, and nothing has actually moved on. Mr. Trump is doing what Mr. Trump would do. People are thinking, why not stand back and just let them steal the election from you? Why should he? Daisy Cousins, who's an excellent alternative media commentator from Australia, says that litigation subsequent to elections is a very, very common event. Of course it is. It happens in Ireland all the time. Anyone will tell you who knows Irish politics knows that there's litigation subsequent to practically every election here, particularly referenda. Particularly our referenda, and they're all, a lot of those legal challenges to referendums are brought here by individuals representing themselves. That's a very important safeguard in a republic. I will do another video sometime later about the very important cardinal distinction between a republic and a democracy. The United States of America and the Republic of Ireland are republics. That's very important. A republic means that there are constitutional safeguards put in place to ensure that everybody is treated properly by the state. A democracy is a place where decisions are made by votes. That's the distinction, but it's important to shelve that for another video and to stay on the topic. Something is arising here in Ireland, and again, it's very similar to what's happening in the US presidential election, and it's called Golfgate, or Seamus Wolfgate. And again, the mainstream media is making a total, utter and absolute disgrace of itself in that particular regard. Earlier this year, around August, 81 or 82 golfers who were part of the Oireachtas Golf Committee went to a dinner in the Station House Hotel in Connemara in Galway. They didn't obey any of the laws pertaining to social distancing or wearing masks. They committed an offence. Have any of them been prosecuted yet? No. But again, this is something that the mainstream media isn't talking about. Last week, it emerged that the former Taoiseach, Leo Varadkar, engaged in a leak of confidential information which did or could have influenced a commercial selection by the government. Has he been prosecuted for that? No. Was there a lot of hot air made in the media and in the Dáil? Yes. Is that relevant? No. And this is the same with the Trump issue and the same with the Seamus Wolf issue. Seamus Wolf broke the law. He broke the law by going to this dinner. Does that mean that he should be impeached as a judge? Absolutely not. Because otherwise, every little transgression any judge makes could lead to them being impeached. We must have an independent judiciary. The United States rests on an independent judiciary. We rest on a judiciary that in practice is 1,000 times more independent than that in the United States, because there is quite a politicised Supreme Court in the United States. That hasn't happened here. There are two separate issues around Seamus Wolf. Neither of them are particularly his fault. Neither of them pertain to a need for him to resign as a judge. Wolf has not resigned. Wolf is right. Wolf is right. This is going very much against the mainstream media and even the alternative social media thread, but Wolf is right. Wolf should not resign and he should stand his ground. In today's Sunday Independent, the columnist Owen Harris says that constitutionally the other judges of the Supreme Court are obliged to sit on the bench with Wolf. Harris is right. They cannot decide who their colleagues are. Their colleagues are chosen by government. Wolf was chosen by government. End of story. They have to sit with them. It would probably be healthy if they're somebody they don't want around them. At least it would stir that pot there. Although I'm not suggesting that our Supreme Court is corrupt. I'm not suggesting that. But that would create, that would be a more independent Supreme Court to have somebody who they don't want around them. Think about it. But the other issue that's getting very, very little attention regarding Seamus Wolf is that a vacancy appeared on Ireland's Supreme Court. Wolf was given the job by the government. Applications from others were not put in front of the government. That is a very serious act of corruption. Is that Seamus Wolfe's fault? Absolutely not. He didn't put it in front of the government. He let the minister know he wanted the job. That's all Wolfe did. He didn't in any way withhold the information about others wanting the job. But there's something else. Many, if not all, of the others who wanted the Supreme Court judge were serving judges on either the High Court or the Supreme Court. Wolfe had been Attorney General and had been a practicing barrister for a long time. There's no reason to suggest that he's incompetent, that he would be legally incompetent to do the job. And by the way, nothing has shown up in any of the affair regarding Seamus Wolfe to suggest that he would be compromised in his capacity as a judge. None of that has shown up. There's nothing to suggest that Seamus Wolfe wouldn't be able to do his job perfectly well. But for some reason, Helen McEntee, the Minister for Justice, withheld from the government the fact that others were looking for the job. Seamus Wolfe is a member of Fine Gael, the government party, and they are the government party. Although nominally Fianna Fáil has more in the Dáil, nominally Fianna Fáil has a Taoiseach, they've played no role in this government since it assembled in June. That's the fact of it. This is a Fine Gael government. Anyway, Helen McEntee withheld from the government the fact that more than Seamus Wolfe were looking for the Supreme Court job. I believe that Seamus Wolfe was not the best candidate for the job. There's a reason for this. Traditionally, although it's not set down in law or the Constitution, higher appeal court jobs went to those who were experienced High Court judges. The High Court is our first superior court in Ireland. There's only one High Court. It's not like the United States, where there's districts and states. There's only one High Court here. Until about 2013, we had the next court beyond the High Court was the Supreme Court. But after 2013, we created the Court of Appeal. So there are now two superior courts of appeal beyond the High Court. The purpose of the Supreme Court these days is to deal with constitutional issues. The purpose of the Court of Appeal is to deal with everything else. They are appeal courts beyond the High Court. Personally, I do not think it is appropriate that anybody should be appointed into those courts without having done some time on the bench of the High Court. This was the tradition. When Fianna Fáil ran this country, which they did for God knows how long, they would never have put anybody into the Supreme Court without that person having had some experience in the High Court. That's not a technicality. The High Court is where all of the major court cases in the country start. High Court judges deal with court lists, they deal with injunctions, they deal with plenary summonses, they deal with matters of service. They know the system. There's a retired judge called Paul Gilligan. Gilligan could be very, very cranky and offhand in court, but he knew the system in his sleep, Gilligan did. He could be quite offhand, but he ran his court list on time. He was punctual. He got through everything on time. He administered his cases extremely well. And he didn't intervene from the bench. He would let the barristers or the lay litigants speak. Then he'd hear what everybody else had to say. He was, in a very crude way, very fair. And he made sure that things got heard. And he worked on time. Gilligan was aware, as a very experienced barrister himself, and then having spent God knows how long as a High Court judge, Gilligan was aware that one of the greatest impediments to justice is wasting time. Because if you waste time, then you run out of time for your hearing. I had a court hearing myself at the start of October. We were listed for 2 days. Had I had my way, we'd got it done in 1. Because it's all written down anyway. It's all in the paperwork. You know, the verbal submissions that you give are only colouring it in a little bit. But everything should be in your paperwork. But through no fault of my own, it ran into a second day. Now, we were listed for a full 2-day hearing, and we finished with 3 hours left. I'm proud of that. That's something that I will be very public about. Because of my insistence with the lawyers on the case, with the senior counsel for An Bord Pleanála and the senior counsel for the builder, I said to them, guys, we're getting this done in 1 day. And without putting too fine a point in it, you know, the dream didn't quite materialise, but it meant that the second day I was able to come in and do my homework and make better submissions than subsequent to what had been said on the first day. So actually I got a bit of a benefit, and we were done. So we were supposed to be finished at 1600 hours or 4 p.m. and we were finished at 10 to 12. And it was a lovely Friday day and everyone got off home. I lost the judicial review in as much as I 15. I was granted leave on 15 grounds, and then when they were examined in court, it was discovered that I didn't have a case there. I didn't have a great case anyway, but I got a hearing, and I was entitled to seek an order to get it. I was entitled to get an ante-suit public interest protective costs order, but I was communicated to by the solicitors for the two other sides who said they weren't going to force me. So in the final order closing down the case, there was a consent order that I didn't have to pay costs. That's how we dealt with it. And I think there was a moral weight there because I had run the case so quickly. And on the second day, as we came in at 10 to 11, I said to the barristers, I said, I want to be out of here by 12. Well, we'll do our best. No, I said, listen, I'm going at 12. We laughed, but we did, we had it done by 10 to 12. Work fits the time allocated to it. Work fits the time allocated to it. There's no need for all this waffling crap they go on with in court. No need for it. No need for it. It got reported very fairly by Mary Carolan in the Irish Times. Mary Carolan is an excellent court reporter. She's very accurate and fair. But like so many of these things, through the way it was, the larger story of what's going on litigiously there didn't get out. This is the same with Trump. Although I'm not accusing Mary Carolan of being a deceitful mainstream media journalist. She's not. Mary Carolan is a very accurate court reporter for the Irish Times. I have great regard for her reporting and her journalism. This is the same, though, with Trump, and it's the same with Seamus Wolf. We do not know the full story here, because the mainstream media are either too bloody lazy or too deceitful to let us know what's going on. There is nothing to suggest that Seamus Wolf is not suitable for the job in the Supreme Court, qualified by the fact that he had never been a High Court judge before. So I would be very much of the opinion that any applicant for the Supreme Court judge who had been a High Court judge would automatically qualify for the job sooner. The High Court is quite different from the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court, because the High Court is where cases start, it's where all the rows happen, it's where the evidence is heard, it's where transcripts are taken. The High Court is the boxing ring of Ireland's courts. It's the bear pit, the High Court is, to an extent. But the High Court is where cases begin. So if you leave the High Court and go into the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court, the case isn't reheard from scratch. It's merely they examine what went on in the High Court to see whether or not there's a flaw and whether or not the case should then be sent back for further hearing in the High Court. They don't rehear cases beyond the High Court. It's sent back to the High Court for further hearing, possibly with a different judge. So this is where we're at. There's no progress with Trump. The mainstream media are completely wetting themselves. And the big problem for the mainstream media is that they bet the farm on a lame horse. Namely Biden. They bet the farm on a lame horse. Biden, there's nothing to suggest to me that anything has moved on beyond the 4th of November. There's a nice Irish expression to describe the situation with the mainstream media. I hope it keeps fine for them.